In less than 48 hours, the reality of what it means to be a mere tenant of the crown finally crashed down on Queen Consort Camilla. It happened not with a dramatic public shouting match, but with the subtle, horrifying click of a biometric lock flashing red at the private executive entrance of the Duchy of Cornwall headquarters. For years, she glided through these heavy oak doors as if she owned the very stone they were carved from. But on this brisk Tuesday morning, surrounded by her private security detail, the heavy door did not budge. Instead, a junior equerry stepped forward from the shadows of the corridor. His eyes were politely lowered, but his voice was utterly unyielding as he informed her that the master of the estate had updated the security protocols overnight. If Her Majesty wished to enter the building, she would have to use the public side door, surrender her personal mobile device, and sign the registry as a standard visitor. This is the story of a staggering miscalculation. What you are about to understand is how a seemingly routine administrative update was actually a total dismantling of a carefully constructed empire. In this video, we will unpack the secret financial power grab Camilla attempted behind the palace gates, how Prince William and Princess Anne forensically uncovered the paper trail, and the devastating silent retaliation executed by the new generation of royals. This is about the weaponization of the administrative protocol. It is about the moment Camilla Parker Bowles realized the bitter, humiliating truth that despite a lifetime of maneuvering to wear the ultimate crown, she actually owns absolutely nothing. To understand the sheer magnitude of this downfall, we must first step back and look at the illusion of absolute power she had so painstakingly built. For nearly 3 decades, Camilla played the longest, most calculated psychological game in modern royal history. She survived decades of public hatred and media scrutiny, slowly and methodically eroding the institutional footprint of the late Princess Diana. She pushed boundaries inch by inch, starting as a controversial companion, morphing into a duchess claiming the title of Queen Consort, and finally attempting to establish her non-royal children and relatives at the very heart of the British Monarchy. Think back to the coronation balcony. That image was not just a photo opportunity, it was a declaration of victory. Camilla surrounded by her own grandchildren, elevating her own lineage, while Prince William and Princess Catherine were positioned carefully to the side. In her mind, she had won. She believed she had King Charles completely under her psychological control, relying on his deep-seated emotional dependence on her to rewrite the rules of the institution. She felt entirely untouchable, shielded by the ultimate title and the unquestioning devotion of the reigning monarch. But titles are merely symbolic, and a title without independent wealth is nothing more than a gilded cage. As King Charles began to face undeniable health vulnerabilities, a profound commercial desperation began to set in behind Camilla's confident public facade. The brutal reality of the British monarchy is that the monarch's spouse does not inherit the grand estates, the sovereign grant, or the billion-dollar duchies. They are, in essence, highly elevated dependents. When Charles is no longer on the throne, Camilla's access to the vast royal wealth completely evaporates, leaving her at the mercy of the next king. Driven by this terrifying realization, she quietly initiated a maneuver to permanently secure her family's financial future, while her husband still held the pen. Palace insiders noted a sudden, intense push to solidify long-term, irrevocable leases on prime crown estate properties for her children. Simultaneously, she attempted to cement a permanent, highly lucrative consultancy stipend for her sister, Annabel Elliot, deeply embedding her into the Duchy of Cornwall payroll. It was a staggering exploitation of a vulnerable moment, an attempt to siphon generational wealth from the institution and transfer it to private, non-royal hands before the window of opportunity closed forever. The paperwork was discreetly drafted, bypassing the standard rigorous vetting of the Privy Council, waiting only for the King's signature during a period of his medical recovery. It was a perfect quiet usurpation, or so she thought. What Camilla fundamentally misunderstood was the shifting tectonic plates of power within the palace. Prince William is no longer the grieving young boy walking behind his mother's coffin, nor is he a passive heir willing to let the institution be hollowed out. As the new Duke of Cornwall, he is the absolute undisputed owner of the duchy. Every blade of grass, every historic brick, and every single financial ledger belongs entirely to him. And standing quietly in his corner is Princess Anne, the fiercely protective guardian of the crown. A woman who has spent her entire life despising those who use the monarchy for personal enrichment. The discovery did not happen through leaked gossip or palace whispers. It happened through a ruthless forensic financial audit ordered directly by the Prince of Wales. When William's transition team took full control of the duchy's accounts, They did not just glance at the balance sheets. They scoured every contract, every unapproved draft, and every historical payroll record. The paper trail of Camilla's secret power grab was laid bare on a massive mahogany desk in Windsor. The anomalous property leases meant for her children, the inflated stipends meant for her sister, all of it was exposed. That detail matters. William did not storm into Clarence's house. He did not scream at his father or leak angry statements to the press. The true power of the British Monarchy does not need to raise its voice. William and Catherine, supported by the tactical wisdom of Princess Anne, chose a far more devastating route. They weaponized the institution itself. They executed a silent bureaucratic slaughter. The retaliation began with the complete financial severing of Annabel Elliot for 2 decades. Camilla's sister had enjoyed a lucrative position as the chief interior designer for the Duchy of Cornwall estates, comfortably billing the royal purse for millions. With a single stroke of a pen, William terminated her contract. There was no public announcement, no dramatic firing, just a cold, sterile notification from the estate managers that her services were no longer required and her security clearance to the properties had been permanently revoked. But the true strike was aimed directly at Camilla's carefully constructed vanity. The morning after the biometric lock denied her entry, a secondary, far more psychological blow was delivered. Camilla returned to a private suite within a royal residence that she had long used as an unofficial staging ground for her family. When she walked through the doors, the environment felt entirely different. The antique furniture remained, but the subtle touches of her influence had been surgically removed. Her sister's access passes were left voided on the entryway table. The private direct phone line that bypassed standard palace switchboards had been physically disconnected. But the detail that truly made the Queen Consort's blood run cold was what hung on the wall at the end of the corridor. A portrait of her own family, which had hung there for years, was gone. In its place, brought quietly out of the royal archives by order of the Prince of Wales, was a stunning, imposing portrait of Diana, Princess of Wales. It was not a petty taunt. It was a masterful forensic reminder of bloodline legacy and true ownership. It was William telling her, without uttering a single syllable, that the era of her manipulation was over, and the ghosts she thought she had buried were now the masters of the house. Panic, thick and suffocating, finally gripped Camilla. The illusion of absolute power shattered into 1,000 pieces. She realized in that freezing hallway that William had not just blocked a financial transaction. He had structurally walled her out of the institution's future. The keys to the kingdom had already changed hands, and no one had bothered to tell her. Desperate to reclaim her authority and demanding immediate intervention, Camilla rushed to the secure communication room. She picked up the encrypted phone line that connected directly to King Charles's private study, intending to force him to overrule his son to demand that the Duke of Cornwall submit to the Queen Consort. She dialed the private extension. The line rang once, it rang twice, and then it clicked over to the cold, automated tone of the palace switchboard. The king was not taking her calls. The trap had officially snapped shut. The automated click of the palace switchboard echoing in the secure communication room was not just a dropped connection. It was the sound of an iron door slamming shut on Camilla's 30-year campaign for supremacy. Standing in the quiet isolation of that room, the Queen Consort was forced to confront the most devastating psychological climax of her royal life. King Charles had not missed her call. He had chosen not to answer it. For a woman who had built her entire existence on the absolute certainty that she could manipulate Charles's emotions to get whatever she desired, his silence was a staggering, unthinkable betrayal. But to understand why Charles abandoned her in this critical moment, we have to look past the romance and examine the cold, unforgiving machinery of the crown. Charles is no longer just a devoted husband, he is the sovereign. And as his own health challenges have painfully reminded him, his reign is merely a transitional chapter. The true centre of gravity within the British monarchy has already shifted to his son. Charles knows that engaging in a bureaucratic civil war with the Prince of Wales over property leases and stipends for the Elliot family would not only be humiliating, but it would also be a battle he is mathematically guaranteed to lose. William holds the deeds. William controls the duchy. William commands the loyalty of the next generation. When forced to choose between the insatiable ambitions of his wife and the survival of the institution he is sworn to protect, Charles did what every monarch in history has ultimately done. He chose the crown, leaving Camilla completely entirely defenseless against the silent wrath of her stepson. This is where the illusion of Camilla's power violently collides with her commercial desperation. The public sees her wearing the Queen Mary crown, dripping in diamonds and waving from the balcony of Buckingham Palace. They assume she possesses unimaginable wealth, but behind closed doors, the forensic reality is brutally different. The British monarchy is structured to protect the bloodline, not the spouses. The billions of dollars in the sovereign grant, the vast rolling estates of the Duchy of Lancaster, the priceless royal collection of Barton jewels, she owns absolutely none of it. If she outlives King Charles, she will become a Dowager Queen, a title that carries historical prestige but zero institutional authority. Her living arrangements, her security detail, and her allowance will be entirely at the discretion of the reigning king. And that king will be William. The terrifying realization that her lifestyle is effectively a month-to-month lease granted by the very people she spent decades trying to sideline is what drove her to such desperate, reckless measures. She knew the window was closing. The attempt to secure prime crown estate properties for her non-royal children and embed her sister into the duchy payroll was not just greed, it was an act of profound existential panic. She was trying to build a lifeboat out of the institution's timber before the new captain took the helm. But William and Princess Anne did not just sink the lifeboat, they dismantled the entire shipyard. The silent retaliation they executed was a masterpiece of institutional hygiene. By revoking her family's security clearances, freezing their financial contracts, and forcing her through the side door, they were not engaging in petty revenge. They were re-establishing the absolute boundaries of the monarchy. Princess Anne, who has served the crown with ironclad discipline for over 50 years, views the royal institution as a sacred trust, not a corporate piggy bank for social climbing relatives. Her alliance with William in this matter was the ultimate seal of approval. Together, they sent a clear, unarguable message. The era of the monarchy being used to subsidize the Parker Bowles lineage was permanently over. Contrast. Camilla's frantic, messy scrambling for wealth with the quiet, overpowering ascension of Princess Catherine. While Camilla was desperately trying to forge signatures on property deeds, Catherine was demonstrating what true, unassailable power actually looks like. Catherine has never needed to manipulate administrative protocols to secure her place. She has endured relentless public scrutiny, severe personal health battles, and the weight of the future with a stoic, uncomplaining grace that perfectly mirrors the late Queen Elizabeth. Catherine's power is organic. It is rooted in her absolute dedication to duty, her flawless execution of protocol, and her undeniable position as the mother of the future kings. When Catherine recently stepped back into the public eye following her health recovery, the entire global media apparatus stopped to watch. The palace did not need to issue demanding press releases or stage highly orchestrated photo opportunities to prove her relevance. Her mere presence shifted the gravitational pull of the entire institution. That is the devastating contrast of schadenfreude that Camilla is now forced to live with. Camilla has the ultimate title, yet she must fight, scheme, and beg for scraps of real influence. Catherine holds no sovereign title yet, but when she walks into a room, the institution moves with her. This shift in power is subtly but deliberately coded into the visual language of the royal family. Pay close attention to the recent protocol changes and the quiet reshuffling of the royal stage. When the family gathers for official portraits or diplomatic receptions, the physical space between Camilla and the core working royals has begun to widen. The subtle removal of her family portrait from the private hallway and the quiet installation of Diana's image was just the first physical manifestation of this new order. We are now seeing Catherine wearing the most significant pieces of Diana's heritage jewelry more frequently. Not as a taunt, but as a statement of unbroken continuity. Every sapphire, every diamond, and every pearl speaks a silent truth. The legacy of the monarchy runs through William and Catherine, completely bypassing the current Queen Consort. What looked like a routine security update at the Duchy of Cornwall was, in fact, the final nail in the coffin of Camilla's long game. It was the moment the new generation took the keys and locked her out of the control room. She's now trapped in a gilded cage of her own making. She has achieved the title she spent 30 years destroying lives to get, only to find that the title is an empty vessel. She is surrounded by courtiers who answer to William, living in palaces she does not own, and married to a king who is too weak to protect her from the inevitable. The British monarchy has survived for 1,000 years not by being sentimental, but by being ruthlessly pragmatic. It prunes its dead branches to ensure the survival of the main trunk. Camilla thought she had grafted herself onto the center of that tree. But as the side door slammed shut behind her, she finally understood the cold, hard truth. She was never the trunk, she was only ever a temporary visitor, and her time is up. Thank you for watching this deep dive into the shifting power dynamics behind the palace gates. If you found this forensic analysis insightful, please leave a like. Share your thoughts in the comments below. And subscribe to the channel for more untold stories of institutional power. Click the video on your screen now for our next royal investigation,